Hello everyone and welcome to another GTA discussion video where I'm going to be doing something that you guys have requested for quite a while, which is a garage tour. So I did an original garage tour, way back when I had sort of one 10-car garage, and I think I did one for the first 2-car garage that I had sort of in the very early days. And then obviously when we got 2 garages, I was able to do a secondary garage tour video where I showed off both my garages. And it's been quite a while since I've done one of those and showed you a bit of an update of what I've got. So here it is, we've got 3 garages now, so this is my triple garage tour, if you like. And I do like to keep it like that, I don't like to do these too often. Maybe when we get 4 garages, I'll do another one with 4 and show you all of the cars that I've got from there. But for now, we'll just stick to the triple garage tour. This is the apartment that I have, I like the views in, this is the new apartment in Richards Majestic. I like obviously the interior, how it's all on one level. It keeps it nice and simple. It's just a nice place to be. I do have another apartment that we'll see sort of later on with the old interiors as well. But Richards Majestic is kind of, it's my favourite location for an apartment. I like the way that the garage comes out to the road. I like the location that it is, There's ammunition close by, Los Santos Customs close by, it's my favourite location for an apartment block, Richards Majestic, so that's why I'm located here. Now, we'll move on to the garage. So this is kind of, because Richards Majestic is my main apartment, this is where I kind of spawn all the time, and this is where I start my streams as well, for example. The garage that is linked to this is my main garage, it's where all of my main cars are that I like to use more often than not. So a lot of people who watch me stream will probably have seen this already because, I'm always taking cars from this garage. It's the one place where I just generally take my cars from most of the time. So the 4 cars that we see at the front here, the Jester, the Alfa, the Stinger GT and the Infernus, those are probably my 4 favourite cars in the entire game, I would say. I really do like those cars. That's why they're kind of, here at the front. The front of the garage that I use the most often, that's why they're here, because they are my favourite cars in the game, I would say. For those of you who, ask me questions, what are my favourite cars, those are them. Not in terms of the way that they drive, just sort of overall, just the colour combination of the Jester. We'll start with the Jester. The colour combination is kind of trying to resemble my YouTube channel, my YouTube sort of design is that kind of orange with the purple as a secondary, and I've tried this colour combination on a few cars, but really the Jester, it kind of works best on the Jester. The Jester is the only car that it really works properly on, so that's what the idea is with that. And obviously we've got the crew logo there as well from the new crews that we have, which was very well made. And yeah, this is kind of sort of my default bog standard car, if you like, with my regular YouTube design on it, if you like. So that's the Jester. And obviously the Infernus, everybody must have seen the video now where I have the comeback in the Infernus, the live racing episode 11, I think it is. If you haven't seen that, definitely go and watch it. I love to race in the Infernus, it's not quite on the pace, but if you get used to it, you get used to the way that it handles, it can really get some good lap times. And I love using it because it's just something a little bit extra that the top 3 cars in the Supers class doesn't have. But I also, I love the styling of it. I love the colour scheme that I've got on this with the deep purple and then the sort of the hot pink secondary and the regular sort of alloy wheels. It's just, the Infernus is one of those cars that I've always liked in GTA games. Going back to GTA 3, all the way through, the Infernus is one of those cars that's always been one of my favourites. And you just can't really look past the Pokeball rear lights. They just make the car that extra bit special. So obviously the Alfa is next up. I love the way that I've styled this because it just looks so mean. This was just sort of a spur of the moment thing. I always liked the way that the Alfa drove, and I thought, just buy one and see what I can do with modding it up. And when I did, and put this sort of matte black paint on it, I left the wheels as the stock wheels that came with it. It just looks so mean, and yeah, I really like the styling of that and the way that it drives as well. And then obviously the Stinger GT, you can't really look past this. It's probably the single most beautiful car in the entire game, in my opinion. absolutely beautiful. The lines that it has, it drives nicely as well. You know, when you're pushing it to the limit, it's a really fun, really interesting car to drive. And yeah, just beautiful, beautiful car. So yeah, those four first cars that we've seen are probably my four favorite cars in the game. I like other cars better in terms of the way that they drive. I maybe like other cars better in terms of styling than some of these. But as an overall package, you know, in terms of the way that they drive, the way that they look, the experiences that I've had in them, these four are kind of the top picks. So there you go, to anybody who isn't wanting to know that. So next up is the Banshee. Now this Banshee is kind of trying to relate to the GTA 3 version of the Banshee. So that's why it's, you know, it's a topless Banshee. It's got these rims that are pretty much the same as what you saw in GTA 3, and it's in green because back in GTA 3 there were sort of, you had the Banshee and then there were three different colours for it. There was red, blue and green, and it was the green one that was generally the more rare version. You know, you didn't see that quite as often as you saw the blue and the red versions. And I always had one, you know, I always had a green Banshee in my garage. It was one of my favourite cars in GTA 3, and I just, you know, I want that back in GTA 5, so that's why I decided to recreate it here. You know, it's as close as I could possibly get to it, and obviously I had that bounty hunt in it as well, first person bounty hunt from the live series. Just a really fun car to drive, and yeah, certainly bringing back the memories from GTA 3. Now on this side, we've got the Peyote. Now I'm sure a lot of you who watched the stream where I had this and have seen the live video as well where I had this. In fact, I don't know whether I've put it up actually. I don't think I've put up the video yet in the live series about this. But when you see it, you'll see why this is kind of a legendary car, because I modded it up and then it exploded and I'd forgot to put insurance on it, so I had to mod it all up again, had to find another one. I really like the styling of the Peyote. I like the inside of it as well. You know, the dials that you get on the inside. In fact, I might as well go in, and that's the same for a lot of these cars. You know, the interiors of all of these cars are going first person. The interiors of all of these cars go into it as well, and you know, they're all very nice, and the Peyote especially is very nice. But I think the Stinger GT is probably the best. Let me have a look. The Stinger GT's interior is absolutely amazing. Just the wood finish. Yeah, there's some really nice interiors on some of these cars. A lot of them get sort of the same old thing, but yeah, some of them are quite unique and really nice. But yeah, the Peyote, you know, in that pink, I really like that pink colour. This car reminds me of, to anybody who watched the old Thunderbirds, the classic Thunderbirds, it reminds me of Lady Penelope's car. Used to love that show, so yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, but it's just a really nice car in terms of styling and the modifications that you can put on it, and just something that I really like. The Hot Knife is another one that's kind of the same sort of thing, you know. It's got the same sort of interior as the Peyote, and it's just one of those small dinky little cars that I just like for no real reason. You know, it's fun to drive. I feel like doing a Hot Knife event really, because it would be quite fun to have a race in these. But yeah, just a small car. It's got bags of character, and yeah, just another car that I like. And the same goes for the Kuruma here. Obviously, this was mainly featured in the Rallycross event that we did, and that was really successful, and that's why I've decided to keep the Kuruma in case we do that again. But also, it's just a nice car to drive, you know, off-road as well, for free roam, you know, 4-person vehicle. It's my certainly my vehicle of choice if I'm trying to take 4 people anywhere. That's kind of the main purpose of the Kuruma. And obviously I like the colour scheme that I've got on there as well, with I think it's a black metallic, and then the hot pink secondary, so, and pearlescent. Finally, the last two are the two big ones. Obviously, we have the big ones at the back. The Rebel with the logo on there, the crew logo. Love the Rebel. You know, I've had such great adventures in this, going off-road, up Mount Chiliad in the snow, things like that. It's a workhorse, the Rebel, and you can get some really great modifications on it as well. Yeah, love this vehicle just for bounding around in free roam, off-road. It'll go anywhere, so that's great. And then the Insurgent, it's basically my protector, the Insurgent. You know, when I'm getting trolled in free roam, I'll just jump in this and it will keep me safe. Obviously all blacked out, kind of similar to the Alpha, but the Alpha's got a bit more sort of style to it, silvery style. But yeah, this Insurgent, it's a huge thing, can carry 6 people. It just keeps me protected from all the trolls in streams. So yeah, and it can go quite well off road as well. So it's certainly the back two are certainly sort of more off roader vehicles for general free roaming. So that's the first garage. You know, these are all sort of some of my favourite cars in the entire game. This whole garage are cars that I use the most often. And in the next garage, we're going to go basically across the road to my next apartment at Wheelshill Plaza, and we'll see the cars that I've got in there. So really the reason that I chose an apartment all the way sort of, well, in Wheelshill Plaza, sort of right next to Richard's Majestic, is just because it was so easy. You know, I wanted a secondary apartment and a secondary garage that was close to the original one. You know, if I want to change cars, move them around a bit, it's very easy to do just by driving them across the street. And, you know, I have easy access to both of them from the same location. So that's why I'm over here. Now, you probably notice a little bit of tricky editing going on. You might not have noticed it at the time, but I've actually changed crews in between leaving that garage and coming into this one. So a little bit of tricky video editing there to keep it nice and clean. But basically the left hand side of this garage is entirely dedicated to the cars that I've won a race in the multi-class endurance championship. So, you know, this garage in its entirety is probably a very sort of sentimental one, I guess you could say. You know, these aren't cars that I'm generally using all that often, but I have them in here because I like them for various different reasons. You know, I might not necessarily like them in terms of the way that they drive. I might not necessarily like them in terms of the styling that they have, you know, under normal circumstances. But it's just certainly, you know, some things that have happened in these cars that really make them stand out for me. So obviously, you know, that all of these cars on the left are all in the Ron Racing colours, which was my team for the Multi-Class Endurance Championship. That will never change, and they've obviously got the Ron logo on there, which is what I changed my crew to get on for these cars. I'm not going to, you know, everything in this garage, really, the cars themselves, nothing will change about them, even if there's something that I think could look a little bit better. They're always going to stay in those Ron Racing colours, because I used them to win the Multi-Class Endurance Championship races in them. Obviously, we have the Vigero first from round 1. I won on Blaine County 24 Hours. Then the FQ2, which I won round 3 on Olympic GP with. Then the Primo, obviously I won round 4 on the North Loop. And then round 5 back on Blaine County 24 Hours in the rain, I won in the BF Injection. So all GT2 cars, and I'm always going to keep these cars just because, you know, they have such great memories of winning those races. And yeah, those are sort of really great races that I enjoyed being a part of. What a, you know, great championship. And yeah, just after winning a race in these cars, you kind of get attached to them. So definitely keeping them there. Obviously, first up here on the right is the Prairie. Normally, it doesn't have the Ron logo on. Obviously, it's got the regular Snoopy logo for the crew. But yeah, I couldn't not have the Prairie. I don't necessarily drive it all that often, but when I do drive it, you know something interesting is going to happen with it. So Prairie for life there. Next up is the Armoured Kuruma. Funny story about this. Obviously, those who watched the stream, the Criminal Mastermind stream, will know that this was the car that got us to the end of the Criminal Mastermind challenge. You know, it was down to me driving this car in quite a tense moment that got us to the end, and I will be trying to bring that footage to YouTube. But I was actually going with the paint scheme. I was actually trying to get the same as the Jester that we saw earlier. As it turns out, I couldn't remember what the actual red was that I had on the base of the Jester, so I ended up going a bit too red for this one. It could have been, I think the Jester colour is Blaze Red with a race yellow pearlescent, and this is kind of the red above that. That wasn't really the right kind of red that I needed. So it doesn't quite have the right colour scheme that I wanted initially, but obviously it was one of those moments where I just had to get it sorted. You know, it was high tense situation. but I'm never going to change it. You know, I'm not going to add any other upgrades. I'm not going to add anything to it. I'm not going to change the color to the one that I originally intended. I'm just going to leave it as it is, because in its form like this, it was the car that got us that Criminal Mastermind Challenge completion. So again, another sort of sentimental reason to keep it, the same as those. I'm not going to change those. The same as the Prairie. It's very sentimental garage, this one. Same goes for the Slam Van here. You know, it's really fun to drive the Slam Van. Obviously, it normally has the regular logo on the side, the Snoopy logo, but yeah, it's really fun to drive. It's got a crazy, silly color scheme on it. We had a Slam Van event with it. We might host another one as well, because it was a lot of fun. But I would say that this garage is one that's most likely to change. You know, the first garage and the last garage that we'll see, they probably aren't going to change all that much, because I like the cars that I've got there. You know, I don't really need to do anything about it. But this garage, as you notice, it has 3 slots free. You know, that's just a car that I need to sell, that baller. But it has 3 slots that are entirely free for basically any cars that I need to test for testing videos, any cars that I need to have for events. Obviously, you know, within the crew, we're always doing different kinds of events. I tell you what, I might as well drive to the next garage whilst I'm talking about this. But yeah, this second garage is very, you know, it's a very sentimental garage. It's kind of how the cars that mean a lot to me for no real particular reason. But it is subject to change more so than anything else, and those, it's kind of my workhorse garage as well. You know, it's where I'll put cars that I need for testing. It's where we're always hosting events in the forums on for the crew. You know, I think there's a British touring car event coming up soon as well, which I'll be participating in, which is sort of ACers and premieres, and you know, things like that. When I want to participate in events that have different cars that I don't normally have, then you've got to have space in your garage to do that. And also when new cars come out and I have to test them around the track and bring you guys the video for it, you know, I need to have space in my garage for that. I can't just have a full 30 cars in my garage all the time, because I'm sort of forever changing what I need for events and for testing. So that's why I've got 3 spots free there. You know, that second garage is kind of the one that I don't use all that often in terms of sort of going into it very much and taking cars from it. But you know, it's there just to store the cars that have some sort of meaning to me. And yeah, we're coming up now to the final garage in the 3, which is my racing garage. Obviously, I've gone with this just getting a garage on its own. You know, I don't need another apartment, and I wanted it to be sort of out the way, because I don't really use these cars in free roam all that often. I wanted it to have that feeling of it's a garage that's sort of off limits to most people, and I only ever use it for racing cars. And this is kind of my try-hard garage, if you like. You know, it's where all of the cars are that I use in regular races online. So they're all in the same colour, obviously. Bruffy orange, that there's been so much talk about in the past. They're all the same colour. They've all got sort of off-road tyres mostly anyway. And these are my choices, what I use to race in each class in GTA. Now, there isn't a bike in here because I don't really race bikes. And there also isn't a utility vehicle. But the other 10 classes that you can race with, there is a representative here. So we'll start off. Obviously, I've decided to go back to the Entity, and the sports tyres on that, as you'll see. You know, I'm just trying out a few different things, just messing around with it. I feel most comfortable with the Entity, you know, when I'm doing supercar races, just because it's just one of those cars that I enjoy driving. You know, I've gone old school with that, if you like. And for sports car races, I've gone back to the regular Massacro as well. The race car version of the Massacro, it just doesn't quite have the same feel. And this, without a shadow of a doubt, is my favourite car to drive in the entire game. In terms of the way that it feels when you drive the car, this is number one by a long way. I love driving this car, and I wanted to have the paint scheme on it as well. So that's why I got rid of the race car version, which you can't have the same sort of paint scheme. And obviously the race cars are really broken at the minute. When somebody else has a race car and is close by you in a race, the sound that they make is just terrible. It's not too bad for the person who's actually using it, but I'd rather just use the regular Massacre. I like the way that it feels, you know, slightly different. Yes, it's not really on the pace of sort of the Jester race car or the Elegy on a track, or even the Massacre race car very slightly, but it's just a car that I love to drive, and really it's not always about performance. So for muscle car racers, the Dominator, I do like the Dominator. I need to get used to it a lot more, but yeah, I just want to have myself covered for muscle car racers by having the Dominator there. Definitely need to use it a little bit more to get used to it though. For sports classic racers, obviously we've got the Z-Type. Obviously, you know, the Z-Type's kind of grown on me. You know, it's the fastest car in the game. You know, as soon as it beat the Adder in terms of the highest top speed in that video, it kind of got a place in my heart for doing that. But the styling of it as well has kind of grown on me. Obviously, I initially thought that it was quite ugly, but it's not too bad. You know, it is growing on me a little bit, and I prefer using this to the majority of the other sports classics. A lot of them are a lot of fun to drive, but for the Z-Type, I just prefer to have that sort of raw power along the straights, really, and I like the way that it corners as well. So for SUV racers, obviously the Huntley S, you know, you can't really go beyond the Huntley S. For sports classic racers, for example, you can have many different cars. For muscle car, you can have many different cars that can be competitive. The Huntley S, you've got to have one for SUV races. You know, it's not going to be no other SUV is really going to be holding a candle to it. So you've always got to have a Huntley S in your garage. For off-road racers, I've got the Bifter. Now, obviously the Sanchez is by far and away the best, but for off-road racers, you know, I want to have a bit of fun. The Bifter is a really fun car as well. It can be used for an event for kart races if we decide to do a kart event with fully upgraded Bifters. So, you know, it's just a fun little car that I really like, as well as really like to drive, and I really like the styling of it as well. The Rhapsody is my car of choice for compact races. Funnily enough, I never used to use this very much. You know, I never used to do compact races at all, but I did a few recently, and it's a lot of fun to drive this car. I really do like driving this car, so I do imagine that I'm going to do some more compact races in streams and things like that. So if you don't have one, you definitely need to get one. You've always got to have a car for every class just to cover yourself. The Felon is my car of choice for coupe races. I just prefer the way that it drives over the Zion. It's not quite as quick on corners, but it is better on the straights. Again, it's the same sort of thing with the Dominator. I do need to get used to it a little bit more because I'm not quite as quick in it as what I could be. But when you know, on the odd occasions that I have been able to get the most out of it, it's done me very well. And I also like the styling of it as well. It's just looks a lot better than the Zion. The Shafter, again, same with the Huntley. You can't really look past the Shafter for sedan races. You know, everything else is just so far off the pace, unless you actually want to be off the pace. Again, it's quite a nice car in terms of styling and the way that it drives as well. So doesn't bother me too much that we have to have one of those. And finally, obviously, the Gang Burrito. Love this vehicle. I love doing van races now that this van has come out. Now that the Gang Burrito is available and it is the quickest van in the game, you can't look past it. And it's a really fun vehicle to drive. And it's the same with the Rhapsody as well. You know, with the compact races. It's just brought new life into van races, and I'm probably going to do more van races and more compact races as well, just so I can use those cars. So there you go. That is my triple garage tour. Obviously, that we finished up here on the racing garage. We had my sort of favourite cars in the first garage, and then my sentimental cars in the second one. What I want you guys to do is let me know down below whether you enjoyed this, whether there's any cars that you particularly liked out of the ones that I have, and also let me know what cars you have in your garages as well. You're free to have, you know, put a big comment with a list of 30 different cars if you want. But yeah, let me know the cars that stood out for you, the cars that you specifically didn't like out of this video, and the cars that you definitely have as well. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it was worth the wait as well. I really do appreciate your support as always, and I'll see you next time.